Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going to investigate a home run that is inevitably going to cost you and me, the taxpayers, millions of dollars. You might have already heard of this story because it's been covered quite a bit over the past year, but a Jackson County deputy has been accused of planting drugs on multiple drivers during bogus traffic stops. Luckily, all of it was recorded on his body camera. Now, initially from these incidents, he was indicted on 52 different counts, including, but not limited to, charges of racketeering, official misconduct, perjury, fabricating evidence, false imprisonment, and possession of drugs. You see, upon investigating about 300 of this guy's arrests, 119 of them were dismissed. Now, those 52 indictments only came from 11 of those arrests, but just the other day, prosecutors filed amended information charging him with more than 24 new charges from 5 new victims. So we're at 16 out of 119. So today we have some body cam footage, an interview with the whistleblower, as well as an interview with some of the family members. In 2018, rumors of shady arrests started rippling through the courthouse and people started to investigate. One of the state prosecutors routinely started pulling his body cam, and some of his coworkers searched his vehicle and found 42 pieces of drug paraphernalia, 10 baggies of meth, and 5 baggies of marijuana. Each item was similar to the ones he had planted on drivers. A year later, he was arrested at his home. The trial was set to begin in December, but has been pushed back because of how many witnesses and how much evidence they have to share with prosecutors and defense. Because of Florida law and the Constitution, the officer has due process and has the right to question all of the witnesses in a deposition. In some of the body cam footage, you can actually see the officer holding some of the evidence before finding it in some of these victims' cars. So let's start with some body cam footage of one of those arrests.
Chicken nugget, boy. Chicken McNugget. I'll be able to get what I need. Man, it's hot. There we go. So the blue discoloration tested presumptive positive for methamphetamine. That does have the appearance of crystal methamphetamine, okay?
It's not, is it? That's red in color.
Okay. You see the blue on the cotton swab?
No.
You don't
I see red.
Okay. Are you colorblind or
No.
you just can't? Oh, okay. All right.
I'm not trying to be smart.
No, yeah, you are. It's fine. Look, it ain't a problem at all.
That's red. That's not blue.
Man, that's not either one of our shit.
Okay.
I swear on my goddamn life.
Deputy Lee, you see the blue? I just want to verify for the camera and
see
audio.
That was red.
Okay. You don't see the blue?
On the cotton swab.
On the cotton swab.
Yeah, I see it on the very tip of the
Okay,
corner.
thank
but
you.
That is not ours.
Okay.
So that right there was one of the incidents that sparked curiosity in the state prosecutor. Let's hear what she has to say about the rest of it.
It's as if he stole things from people. He did it in a roundabout way, but he stole people's livelihood, he stole their freedom, he stole their credibility. There's not an apparent motive. The typical person he arrested was a low-income white person. It was someone that, if, in my experience with methamphetamine use, it was what your typical methamphetamine user would look like. broken down cars, mufflers hanging off, you know, the fender panel's different color than the rest of the car, the people that their clothes are clean but they don't look clean, that level of person. And most of his arrest was a low-income white person. And whether it was a low-income white person because I don't want to do better, or a low-income white person who they're genuinely doing the best they can with what they have. But that was his typical stop. I think, unfortunately, that a lot of people that get arrested either fit a profile or have criminal histories, and there's an assumption that they're guilty. This person's a frequent flyer, I see them often, they were guilty last time, I'm assuming they're guilty this time. So let them plead, let them whatever, because I assume they're guilty because that's their history. And unfortunately, I think some of it gets by like that. Some of it gets by because cases are numbers, and it's just processing another file. It's not necessarily dealing with a person, it's processing another file. But there's supposed to be checks and balances. In this case, okay, there's a dishonest officer, but there's still his supervisor at the sheriff's department, whatever quality control program they have in place at the sheriff's department. There's the state attorney's office who's supposed to be reviewing the evidence before we file these cases. We're supposed to be reviewing the cases to see if there's even enough evidence to support the case. There's the public defender's office who is supposed to be representing the people they defend, and if something's wrong, filing the appropriate motion or having the case thrown out or filing complaints about personnel that they see. So it's not that there was a bad cop on the road and the bad cop on the road ruined all these people's lives. The bad cop on the road might have made them had a bad night. I mean, it might have lost them their job, it might have busted up their romantic relationship, but it didn't necessarily put them in prison. The combination of the bad cop and the state attorney's office and the public defender, and you know, the assumptions that some of these people are guilty because I have seen them often. It can't blame it on one thing.
Now, unfortunately, the woman in that video, Christina Pumphrey, had spent 15 years on as a state government lawyer. But because of all of this, yes, the cop was arrested. Yes, 119 cases were dismissed or overturned, but it also caused for her resignation. Now, I don't know what she's going to go on to do. Maybe she's going to start her own practice and move away from the state. And a big part of me hopes that she does. But also a big part of me hopes that she doesn't, because she was the only one brave enough to step forward and say something and to get this officer, Zachary Wester, fired and put into jail. Now, granted, all of this is alleged, as he has not been convicted yet. But if you look at some of the other body cam footage, you won't believe your eyes. Some of it is just so obvious. As a matter of fact, I'd really like to know how Donut Operator would justify this. And hey, what do you know? Here he is.
We interrupt our regular programming to bring you a special report by Donut.
Hi guys, Donut here. I'm just taking a moment to get some positive thinking going, because I'm going to need it for this one. Now listen, I've told you guys over and over again, the camera lies. It doesn't tell the whole story. You got to have the facts. It's about the facts and the facts. And to find the facts, you have to read the report. Now, I read all like 4,000 or 5,000 reports that he's being accused of. And nowhere in any of those reports does it say I planted drugs. No, it said I found drugs, which means that he didn't plant the drugs. He found them. And listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I had a situation once where there was this really bad guy, and I couldn't catch him because he was too smart. He knew the system. Well, I cut a few corners, okay? And we got that bad guy put away. Now, true, it violated his rights, but we protected the public. Remember, officers are heroes, and I've got to say, good job, officer. And yes, he's still an officer because he's still wearing a uniform.
Thanks, Donut. And thank you, John Masters, for that special guest appearance. If you guys haven't been over to Masters Report, make sure you get over there, give him a sub. Check out his videos. He's a great creator. He's a real funny dude. And he's got a Discord channel, so he's interacting with people all the time. Let him know I sent you if you go give him a visit. Links are in the description. Now, the only thing that I fear about this whole thing is a story like this. A judge just went easy on a crying cop who recently planted drugs on somebody and was caught for it. Who knows how many times this officer actually planted drugs, how much he's gotten away with, and how many they were prosecuting him for. But the idea that a judge would go easy on him just because he's a cop is extremely baffling. If anything, they should be held to a higher standard. This guy got no jail time, just 5 years of probation and 300 hours of community service. But what about the victims? Some of them spent more than a year in jail for something that they did not do. And if they didn't spend time in jail, they lost their jobs, their livelihood, undue amounts of stress. I'm sure some of them had suicidal ideation. In fact, let's hear from one of the family members from one of the victims of Zachary Wester.
My brother, Lance Sellers, was pulled over by Zach Wester. He wound up doing a year in rehab. It did him some good, but he didn't necessarily need to go. The charges were bogus. Zach planted the stuff in him.
Recently? Or?
He got out of rehab last summer. He's been out about a year.
Okay,
he did a year of rehab. He was in jail.
What was he charged with? Tell me what do they...
He was charged with fleeing and eluding.
And what else?
And possession of methamphetamine. And now his charges have been dropped after he's went through probation and a year of rehab and fines and care classes. All that he's done.
And did your brother proclaim his innocence from the beginning?
Yes.
And did anyone believe him?
No. I don't know Zach Wester.
Okay.
But
what do you think about what he's
I don't think that what he's done is right. And if everybody else can be arrested for possession of narcotics or methamphetamine or whatever, this man was also in possession of it because he put it there. So maybe he needs to be arrested for possession.
Do you think he should be arrested for worse than that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's ruined lives.
Now, typically I chalk up police incidents, excessive force, bullying, failing to abide by discretionary judgment, all up to a power trip. And I think in most cases, that's all it is. Uninformed, uneducated, poorly trained, power tripping people with egos too big for their uniform to contain. But I can't even fathom what would cause somebody to ruin the lives of over 100 people for seemingly, from what we know, no reason, allegedly. And this is one of almost 800,000 law enforcement officers in uniform in the United States. You know, when I sit down to do these videos, some of them I have planned from weeks prior and I'm like, oh, I gotta cover this. But the list keeps growing faster than I can create the content. So it's not like it's 1 or 2 bad apples, or like the Chicago police chief says it's 3 to 6% of law enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, we have 3 to 6% of cops who shouldn't be cops. And I'll be the first one to say that. We have some members of this department who shouldn't be here.
I think the problem is much, much bigger than that. The roots go down deeper to the ones that have not been caught, all the way spread out to the ones who see it and say nothing. Anyway, if you're out there, if you know something, be the whistleblower, do something, anything. If you can protest, if you can rally, if you can make videos, do something to expose this problem. Otherwise, it will fester, become necrotic, gangrenous, and we will be the part of the leg that is amputated. That's it for today. If you're new here, subscribe, like, comment, share, do all the things. I'll see you in the next one.